I just know you're ready to hear about a little crime. Welcome to Crime Daddies.
Warning, this podcast is hosted by two true crime dads that will talk about murder, drugs, rape, and offenses against children. We may crack jokes and make light of something so terrible that has happened, but it will never be about the victim or the victim's family. You have been warned.
Welcome back to a new episode of Crime Daddies. My name is Jacob.
And I am Hunter, co-host of Crime Daddies.
And we are so glad to have you guys back for our newest episode. Thanks for tuning in last week. We appreciate the love you guys have been showing us and all the interactions we get on all of our social medias and all the comments. I'm telling you guys, we check every single comment on every single platform. So if you want to just reach out to us, put something in the comments, even if it's negative, we're still going to read it and we're still going to respond to you guys.
That's right. We're not going to leave you hanging.
Yeah, because we are your crime daddies. And I'm going to bring the episode today. You ready, Hunter?
I'm ready.
So this episode I'm bringing today is going to be our first episode of crime that is not necessarily a murder.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I figured we're going to cover a lot of different things, and there's a lot of murders, but there's also a lot of crime that happens that isn't murder. And so I think this one is a pretty cool one. And if you've heard of it before, just stick around, because within this past year, the crime that this covers became a blockbuster Hollywood movie.
Was it some kind of big bank heist?
Not really, but we'll get into it.
Was it a cowboy robbing a train back in the day?
You just have to wait and see, okay?
Bring it to me. I'm waiting.
All right. So before we get started, I want you, Hunter, and everybody that's listening wherever you are, to just close your eyes and picture this for a moment. If you've ever worked in fast food, just picture that it's like the early morning, you're opening at a McDonald's. You're not even fully awake. You've done the routine 100 times, right? You're getting coffee started. You're getting the grill turned on, the fryers heated up. Maybe you're unlocking the doors, checking the drawers, making sure that money's in there. Just going through the motions like every other shift.
I was like, man, I feel for the fast food workers because I used to work at McDonald's. I remember having to do truck, and I'd have to get to work at 4 o'clock in the morning to unload a truck.
Yeah, I mean, it's the worst. And so imagine it your first thing in the morning, and everything feels normal, and then all of a sudden it doesn't. You're standing there, and then you hear something above you. It's not really loud, but it's just some scattering in the ceiling. So you maybe look around and you think, was that a crash? No, that wasn't loud enough. But you just think, what was that? You look up, and then feet come out of the ceiling. So what makes this even worse is that after this man drops out of the ceiling, he's not yelling at you. He's very calm. And he's not acting how you would expect someone who's robbing a restaurant to do. Like weirdly calm, like controlled, like he's done this before.
If you work at McDonald's and this happens to you, please take the fryer vat of the McChicken patties and just throw it over on the guy.
Well, this guy, he pulls out a gun, looks at you, and instead of screaming orders, he basically just starts directing the situation. And then at some point he tells you, hey, I just want to be honest, you might want to grab a jacket, because he's about to stick you in the freezer and lock you in it. And so that alone is already pretty insane, but the thing is that this isn't even the one-time story. This is not a random robbery that went wrong. This is something that happened over and over and over again across the country by one guy that nobody could identify.
If I'm being honest, if he locked me in the freezer, because when I worked at McDonald's, that's where all the cookies were, I'd be smashing cookies in the freezer.
Hey, I don't blame you. I mean, you're locked in there, might as well make something of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so this guy became notorious, and until they figured out who it was, they just called him the Roof Man. So if you've watched the movie at this point, you know the story, but I'm going to get into it. Now, this guy, the Roof Man, his real name is Jeffrey Allen Manchester. He was born on November 12th, 1971, all the way out in Sacramento, California. And right off the bat, this is where the story starts to get a little interesting, because this is not just some random dude off the street making bad decisions. He actually was a veteran of the United States military. He was in the U.S. Army, a part of the 82nd Airborne Division. So we're talking about someone who's really trained, someone who understands movement, timing, discipline, all those things.
He a paratrooper?
Doesn't really specify. Whenever I research the case, it just talks about he knows how to plan. He knows how to make something and execute it. He's really good about that. And he was in the military for a long time. And on top of that, before any of this even starts, he worked at McDonald's. And so if you know anything about the fast food industry, the reason why it was able to get so big is because they streamline everything. Every location has the same layout. They have the same training schedules. They have the same building sizes. Like every McDonald's is ran the same way. That's why they were able to be so successful and become the fast food restaurant that we all know and love.
Carbon copy, cookie cutter, McDonald's, like they're all set up the same.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a lot of experience because I used to work for Sonic as a manager, and I would travel around to different Sonics in different states, and every single store was set up about 95% the same way. Now, there is a little bit of leeway for some liberties they took, but for the most part, every store had the same layout. The freezers were the same spot, the bathrooms the same spot, the desk at the same spot, the money in the same spot. It was all just carbon copy, like you said.
You know what? Sorry, Jacob. Can we back up for just a second?
Yeah.
Did it specify what years he was in active service?
It doesn't. It just says that after he worked at McDonald's in his youth, he went on to the military.
Okay. I was curious if this was like back in the Vietnam days or if this was more like Desert Storm.
Yeah, not quite. He was born in 71, and so it was probably, I'd say, if he was born in 71, he probably was working in the military probably late 80s.
So he may have been around Desert Storm area.
Yeah, he might have been. But now you have a guy who understands how these buildings operate, how employees move, what time people show up, what the weak points are. He's not guessing. He knows what's walking in before he ever gets in there. And then around November 1998, that's whenever everything starts. And I'm telling you, his method is one of the most unique ways I've ever seen in a case like this, because he doesn't do anything normally that you would think a robber does, right? He's not kicking in doors. He's not running in with a mask during lunch rush. He's not doing any smash and grab. He studies places. He watches them. He learns the patterns. He sees the workers, the employees. He makes sure he has it all mapped out. And then late at night, he climbs onto the roof, cuts a hole, and drops inside. And here's the part that really messes with me. He didn't just do it and leave. He didn't break in and grab stuff. He stays. He'd stay in these buildings for hours overnight, just sitting inside in the dark, waiting for employees to show up the next morning. Just think about that for a second.
What was his main motivation? Was he trying to rob McDonald's? Because, I mean, I highly doubt they had that much cash in the register.
Yeah, I mean, most restaurants don't keep a lot of money, but I think he just did this repeatedly. Instead of working, this was his income.
Because armed robbery is one hell of a charge for just a few $100s for McDonald's.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, think about it. You're working your shift and completely unaware that someone has been sitting inside that building all night long waiting for the right moment to step out. That's a different kind of creepy. So morning comes, employees walk in, everything's normal until it's not. He steps out, gun in hand, takes control of the situation, in almost every case, rounds everybody up, sticks them in the freezer, locks them inside. But they always note that he was really, really nice. He never threatened violence. He never said he was going to hurt anybody. He actually took care of them and said, hey, grab a coat. You're going to be cold. Get in the freezer. So that's where the story kind of flips in a way that most robberies don't kind of go. Like I said, he was not violent. He was not aggressive. And he was not unpredictable. Victims consistently described him as calm, even polite, even considerate in a weird way. Like, if I'm getting robbed, the last thing I'm going to call this guy is polite or considerate, but that's what they said.
Let's just be honest. Like, if you hated your job, like you hated working at McDonald's, it probably wouldn't upset you that this guy's robbing it as long as he's being nice and not beating you around.
Yeah, and some of these people said that he often joked with them. Like, one of them said that whenever he put them in the freezer, he made the joke like, well, at least you get the rest of your day off, and joked with them and laughed about it, and then he left. But that right there is kind of where, like, the normal brain might short circuit and just feel kind of off about it, because how do you process someone who is committing armed robberies, locking people in freezers, but also acting like he's like the host of the situation? That contrast is just weird. And it makes the whole thing just a little odd. And here's the thing is that this guy was everywhere. So he started with McDonald's because that's what he knew from his background. But then he decided to move into other territories. I'm talking he's getting on Burger King turf. He's not just a McDonald's guy. He's not just robbing Ronald's pockets. He's going over to the king himself and stealing from there. He'd go to Toys R Us's. He'd steal toys. He'd steal money. He'd go to Blockbuster and steal movies and rob them across multiple states for a long time. Estimates put him somewhere between 38 to 60 robberies total.
Pretty impressive to pull off that many heists and never get caught.
Yeah, and for years, nobody even knew who he was. They had no face, no name, just a pattern and a nickname. They called him Roofman. Like I said, he had a mask. He came in, did the same thing, Got in, got out, pretty clear.
Did he ever go into detail of how much he actually ever got when he did do robberies?
He does talk about it, and there are some interviews online where he talks about why he did it and how much he got from it. There's some that really show where he messed up and ended up getting caught. So one of the first times he ended up slipping was in May of 2000. He got caught in North Carolina after a robbery. He got arrested and charged, and at this point he was sentenced to 45 years in prison because he got charged on robbery with a weapon and kidnapping because he locked somebody into a freezer.
Fair charges, to be honest. I mean, that's definitely armed criminal action at its finest.
For sure. And at that point, you're thinking, all right, the story's over. They got this crazy dude that's been locking people in these freezers for years all over the country.
I'm honestly so impressed that this guy, which you haven't told me yet, so I'm just assuming, but I'm honestly impressed with what this guy's doing. He has not had any sexual involvement with the people he's keeping captive.
Yeah, and that's one thing that he kind of just strays away from. He's not like a normal criminal like we hear in all these cases. He's just a guy that is kind of smart, was down on his luck, and instead of using his smarts for the right way, decided he wanted just to go and become a criminal.
I don't agree with robbing, obviously. I don't think those big corporate companies missed out on much.
I don't think so either. It's just another guy trying to get by. Not saying that I recommend it or even feel like you should do it. Like Hunter said, I'm against robbing, just in principle. But hey, he made it work and he got it done.
He needs to get good at robbing the government.
Yeah, that's what he should do. He should
like
go.
They do us every single week when we get paid.
Exactly. Maybe he should have just been the Robin Hood for the people. But this is where the story kind of takes a turn for a second. So this honestly makes everything before feel like it was a setup. Remind you, this guy, he's really sneaky. He's really clever. He's able to do up to 60 robberies across the whole United States. So while he's in prison, he's working in a metal shop. And instead of just doing his time, he's watching. Again, he likes to watch. He likes to learn. And he likes to pay attention on how everything moves. He likes to look at the intricacies of everything. And he spends 4 years planning an escape from prison. Not rushing it, not guessing, planning it to the very minute detail.
Say in your research what his IQ was, because I'm pretty curious.
No, it doesn't really. I'm curious too. Maybe that'd be something cool to go look up afterwards.
Because a lot of criminals that have a high IQ have been really good at escaping prison.
Yeah, and I mean, he was able to do all those robberies, and so it shows that he's a smart guy all around.
It shows he's a critical thinker of his environment.
Yeah, and I think he probably got that background a lot of time, probably from being in the military, learning how to think like that.
Yep, move stealthily.
Yep, and so after 4 years of planning, on June 15th, 2004, he makes his move. He builds this makeshift plywood platform. He paints it black so it blends in, uses cardboard to hide himself, and literally hides underneath a truck that's leaving the prison. And he just rides out. So he's hanging on the bottom of this truck, and he's got a black cardboard piece blocking him, and he's just riding out. They bring him out themselves. No alarms, no guards catching it, no big dramatic chase or hole in the wall. He was just stealthy. He watched their moves. He watched how they loaded the trucks. He watched whenever they were gone, and he got in, and he just left.
So he was underneath the truck.
Yep.
I've mentioned before, I am a diesel mechanic. I work on semis for a living, and there's very few places that you could fit underneath that truck without literally falling and dying in the process. Like,
yeah,
if you got wrapped around the driveline, it could twist you up and kill you. If you fell at all, the weight of that truck would kill you instantly if you got ran over. So that's pretty impressive. He was actually able to pull that off.
Like I said, this guy, he's smart, he's in shape, and he's out. He's out of prison. Because that's insane on its own, escaping prison after doing what he's already done. But he gets it out. He makes it to the road. He didn't ride underneath this truck for a long time. As soon as he was away from the prison, he kind of just found a way to get out, and he was off. He finds some clothes, ditches his prison garb, gets a ride, hitchhikes a little bit, and then he ends up all the way in Charlotte, North Carolina. And now you're thinking, this is where this guy just disappears, right? And he just goes off and does whatever, and he just is a guy that's been missing for years.
Did he find a way to get street clothes? I understand being able to get picked up to hitchhike, but if somebody's asking me for a ride and they're wearing prison numbers, I'm not going to pick them up.
See, it doesn't say what he was wearing whenever he escaped. I'm thinking that he probably had some sort of work uniform in because he worked in the metal shop, and so he
Okay.
probably had some PPE on of some sort.
So he may have had some like blue jeans and like a mechanic shirt or something
Yeah,
like
he
that
might have
on.
had something that he could have bypassed that wasn't just an orange jumpsuit with
And
some numbers on it.
if like his prison numbers were sewn on, he probably could have just ripped the patch off.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. But he does not lay low. He doesn't go off grid. He doesn't go anywhere remote. No. You know what he decides to do?
Sounds like he's got balls.
Sounds like he goes back to the normal. He is breaking and entering again. Now, this time, I'm going to pause real quick. And as a kid, did you guys ever sit and think, what if the world ended and would I just go to Walmart and live inside Walmart and just have all this food and have all these things and I can just live here and have everything I ever wanted living in Walmart? Like, I remember as a kid, me and my brothers would talk about, if the zombie apocalypse ever happened, what's the first store we're going to? And everyone's like, oh, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to Walmart because they have firearms, they have food, they have bedding, they have clothes, they have everything. One of my brothers was like, oh, I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to have all these things that I can use to barter and trade with people. It was like a weird fantasy I had. Maybe it's not everybody, but that's just something that we used to think about a lot growing up.
I'm going to go to the Army surplus store because they got military weapons, military ammo, camo, MREs. You could come out with a pretty good stash at the Army surplus store too.
You definitely could. And then if you guys have ever watched the TV show, My Name is Earl, you ever watched it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so there's one episode whenever they think the world ended and they all go to their local grocery store and they end up living in it.
Yeah.
Okay. They get that idea from this guy. So he breaks into a Toys R Us. And yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. He lives there. And I'm not talking about he lives there for a couple days, maybe a week. I'm talking months. So at nighttime, he would come down. He would eat candy, baby food. He'd ride a bike through the aisles at night using baby monitors to keep track of when employees were around. At one point, he's literally sleeping on an inflatable pool float behind a wall. Like behind this wall, he's just sleeping on a pool float. And then whenever people start getting suspicious and seeing like his wrappers or his trash hanging around, he would just move to a different part of the building.
I wonder if they ever was doing inventory and realized they're missing a bunch of peanut butter M&Ms or something.
I don't know. It doesn't ever distinguish on if they ever saw these things. It would probably just happen in such small quantities that they didn't notice it.
You said this was 2004?
Yeah, 2004.
So was a Nintendo DS out in 04? I know
not sure.
Game Boy Advanced or something like that.
Yeah, the Game Boys were definitely out. I think the DSs came out around 2007 or 8.
I bet he had a Game Boy and he was playing Pokemon.
Yeah, they said he'd watch TV in the break room at nighttime whenever nobody was there, because throughout the day he would sleep or he would just leave the building, and then at nighttime he'd come in and he'd look like a normal customer, and then he'd go and find his way. He knew where all the surveillance cameras were. He knew everyone's schedules. Like I said, this guy's not stupid. He's a really smart guy.
What do you know about this, Jacob? Putting chicken strips in the freezer at work and your coworkers eat them?
Yeah, I know all about that.
I bet that
Yeah,
he was
I know
in there
all about
stealing coworkers' food and they were all getting mad at each other.
They're blaming each other, like
Yep.
getting pissed at one another because their food's gone. And this guy at nighttime is just in their break room, feet on the table, eating their ice cream.
He could get them real good. Throw some laxative in their food and they're all going to be blaming each other.
But yeah, he was never violent. He never came down. He never hurt nobody. And that's what kind of distinguishes this guy from any normal criminal, because he didn't want to put his brain to having a real career and finding himself a nice, honest living. He just was smart. He was very tactical, but he used it for all the wrong reasons. And then things started to get pretty hot, and he felt like they were on his case. So next door, this is kind of like in a little outlet mall. Next door was a Circuit City, which is another retail store, but this one was closed down. And so what he did is he moved next door into this abandoned building, and he builds an actual hidden living space underneath a stairwell. He paints it, he decorates it, watches movies during the day. At this point, this guy's not even trying to survive. Like, this guy is building a life inside of this freaking Circuit City next to this Toys R Us.
It sounds like a pretty sweet bachelor pad underneath the staircase. I mean, as long as you got something to lay down and you can watch TV, don't have to work, just go steal some candy and eat it. The only thing, I bet he's got cavities.
Probably, but maybe he's going somewhere else and stealing some toothpaste and toothbrush and
I hope so.
maybe hopefully some deodorant and catching a shower every once in a while.
Oh, that's right. Where would he be taking a shower?
I don't know. I've thought about this before. If I was ever homeless, I'm getting a gym membership at Planet Fitness.
Absolutely.
$10 a month, and I can go to any shower in the country and just shower.
Around here, you better be homeless in either Poplar Bluff or Cape, because I believe that's the only two places that have a Planet Fitness.
Yeah, so if I was homeless, I'd make sure I'm in a place where there's always a freaking Planet Fitness. But somehow, this guy's story gets even a little weirder because he gets bored. He gets tired of just watching movies all day long and then eating sugary treats at nighttime and then riding bikes around the Toys R Us store. Like, he wants to go back to a normal life. But the problem is, right, he's an escaped convict.
Yeah, he's on the run now, so he's kind of stuck what he's doing, it sounds like.
That doesn't stop this old dude.
Was he still somebody's identity?
Not really. He just creates his own. He creates the name alias John Zorn. Zorn. Little different, little weird. All right, I need everybody listening right now to lock in for a second, because what I'm about to say is either going to make your life easier, fix your week, or score you some serious points at home. And I'm dead serious.
Yeah, this is one of those where if you listen, you're good. If you don't, you're probably going to regret it later.
I'm serious though. Whether you're a guy, you're a girl, you're young or you're old, everybody hits that point where you're just worn out and you need a reset. And most people don't actually take the time to do it.
And when they finally do, it makes a bigger difference than you think. We've both seen it. When our girls actually take time for themselves and go get taken care of, it's a completely different energy when they come back.
And that's why this episode is brought to you by Bellissimo Spa. Whether you just want to go in for something simple like nails or hair, or you want to spend a full day getting the works, they've got everything covered, and I mean everything.
Yeah, and Bethany Harris owns and runs it, and she is really one of those people that can do a little bit of everything. But what stands out is the team that she has built around her.
Yeah, that's the big difference. You've got people there that actually specialize in what they do. Hair, nails, facials, lashes, waxing, massages, you name it. You're getting someone who knows exactly what they're doing, not just somebody who bounces around.
And that's why the experience feels different. It's not rushed. It's not thrown together. You actually have a feeling like you've been taken care of.
And look, even if you're a guy listening to this podcast, no judgment from your crime daddies. If you need a massage or a head spa or just a break yourself, that applies to you too.
So whether you're a dad treating your daughter, a husband or fiance taking care of your girl, or you're just stressed out yourself and need to unwind, this is one of those places that covers every single bit of that.
Yeah, and they are located right here in Dexter at 14 South Locust Street. Hours are Monday, 8 to 5, Tuesday, 9 to 8, closed on Wednesdays, Thursdays, 8 to 5, Friday, 8 to 4, and then closed all weekend long.
Book with Bethany or her team. And when you go, make sure you let them know that your crime daddy sent you.
Yeah, so just take the time and take care of yourself, or just take the time to care for somebody else. Either way, it's definitely worth it. Bellissimo Spa is Crime Daddies approved. Now let's get you back to the episode. So, Mr. quote John Zorn decides he wants to go to church. He wants to get involved into his faith. He wants to get back in touch with the Creator and kind of feel a little bit better. So he starts going to church. He starts attending classes, goes Wednesday night, goes Sunday night, go to Sunday school.
I already don't like where this is going.
Well, at this church, he's a pretty charming guy. He knows his way around conversations with people. And at this point, he meets a woman who attends the church, and he starts dating her. I'm going to pause right now and say, as a woman, this is where you should be a little bit embarrassed, because start dating a guy that you don't even know if he has a house, where he's from, where he lives. I'm sure he probably had some pretty good excuses. Like I said, this guy's pretty crafty, but still, this guy's living underneath the stairwell at an abandoned Circuit City next to a Toys R Us, not to mention the fact that he is an escaped convict with over 60 robberies underneath his belt.
How do you explain that to her? Things are getting hot and heavy. You take her to your place and you say, here, baby, get underneath my stairwell.
Yeah, it doesn't end that well. I mean, that'd be really embarrassing. Hey, can I go to your house? Yeah, sure. Pulls up to Circuit City. What are we doing here? I live here. What are you talking about? And obviously this lady has no clue who this guy is. He tells her he has some kind of confidential government job, something he can't really talk about. He keeps it very vague and secretive, enough to not even raise any suspicion. Meanwhile, he's literally living inside of a toy store. He's making it seem like he's got some badass government job, top secret, classified. I'm sorry, hon, but I can't tell you anything or else you're going to kill me type job. And this guy goes home and he sleeps underneath the stairwell at a freaking Circuit City.
And he probably pulls some stories out of his butt to convince this lady that that's true. I mean, being in the military, he probably does know how to spin that into different stories to make it more believable.
Yeah, like I said, he's a crafty dude. He is a smart guy. She's like, I'd like for you to meet my children. And so he starts to try to put on this perfect stepdad act. So he'd start bringing them toys every time he saw them. Mind you, he's getting these toys from the Toys R Us that he's living next to at nighttime.
So this guy is just a mysterious Santa Claus that is a huge charmer. He's putting on the show at the church. Like, he is definitely a manipulator if I ever heard of one.
Oh, yeah. So Mr. quote-unquote John, after he meets this lady, and now I forgot to say her name. Her name is Miss Lee Wainscott.
She's got two first names mixed together with a last name. That's crazy.
Isn't it? This guy's something else, and he's got a different taste in women, and for some reason, she just thinks that he's it. This guy is awesome. He's getting her toys. He has this really cool job. He's present. He's taking her out to TGI Fridays on these big dinner dates.
Sounds like she's very submissive.
It sounds like it, don't it? On December 26th of 2004, the day after Christmas, he makes another move. Now this time, he decides he wants to rob the Toys R Us completely.
Like, drop in with a gun and rob them.
Yeah, back to his own shtick. He's got a gun. He's got employees getting tied up.
Where did he get the gun? Does it say?
It doesn't say that.
Kind of suspicious. I was going to say, because what if he had his new girlfriend go out and buy him a gun?
So whenever he picks the Toys R Us, it's because he's familiar with the building, right? He understands the layout. He's been there, the timing. He understands how the employees move, where things are stored. In his mind, this is probably one of the safest jobs he could pull. He knows his building. He's been living here for months. He's comfortable. And you know what happens whenever criminals are comfortable?
They act.
They are idiots. And so he's been so smart this whole time, able to escape prison and find this nice Christian woman that he's taken advantage of and making it seem like he's going to be stepdad of the year whenever actually he is back to his own shenanigans.
Con man of the year.
Con man of the year. Like I said, comfort leads to mistakes. So he goes through with his plan. The same general approach, control the situation, take the cash, get out. But this time, something is different. This time, the employees don't just stay contained. In every McDonald's robbery he ever did, they would just sit in the cooler or the freezer and just wait until someone showed up to help them. Now, these people, they were like, nah, for lack of better words, fuck that. And two of them managed to slip away. And that right there is what changes everything.
They're lucky he didn't snap and shoot him because he's probably going into panic mode right now.
Yeah, because up until now, part of what made him successful was his control over the situations. He was really good at controlling people, being nice, using manners, and then having their trust so he could be able to control everything. The environment, the people, the timing, he controlled everything and it all stayed contained. But the second someone gets out, the situation is no longer contained. Now you get police called, and now instead of a quiet robbery that gets discovered later on, this becomes an active response. And this is where things just start to unravel for this poor dude.
I wouldn't say poor dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got some questionable morals. Whenever the law enforcement get involved immediately, they're just not looking at what was taken. They're looking at how it happened. They're looking at any entry points. They're looking at patterns. And eventually, that leads to something that they weren't expecting to find. Next door, his little living space. So they found an entry point that led to that open building right next door. They found a little spot where he had been living. Underneath the stairs, they saw a little makeshift bed. They saw painted walls. They saw a DVD collection. And I want you to picture this because this is one of the strangest parts of this entire case, right? This guy is just a guy hiding in a corner somewhere. This isn't just a guy hiding in a corner somewhere. This is a constructed space, a space where he had been living, sleeping, spending time. Investigators go in and they start seeing evidence of that. Signs that someone has been there consistently for months, not passing through, but actually living. And in that space, they find something small, something simple, but something that changes everything. Can you take a guess?
His prison uniform, prison ID.
No, they find a fingerprint. And it's almost kind of anticlimactic how they found it because after everything that this guy has pulled off, after the planning, the escapes, and the months of hiding, what ultimately brings him down is one singular fingerprint.
Would they find it on a DVD?
It doesn't say.
I guarantee it. I'd almost have bet money it was left on a DVD or a TV screen. Those items attract fingerprints very easily.
Yeah, a lot of those finger oils kind of stick to that kind of stuff. And now after they have a fingerprint, they can now put a name to the perp. This isn't Roofman. This isn't John. This is Jeffrey Manchester, a known individual, an escaped convict, and a guy with a history. And for law enforcement, now the entire situation really shifts because you would expect him to run, get out of there, right? That's a logical move. You just robbed a place. You're under some heat. You've been exposed. Your identity's been shown. Law enforcement is actively looking for you. They know you're in the area. This is where you disappear. Like if I'm an escaped convict and they're hot on my tail, I'm getting out of Dodge quick.
I'm guessing he went to his girlfriend's house.
Yeah, he doesn't leave. He stays in Charlotte.
And I bet they're watching the news that night and his face comes on TV and he's sitting next to her like, that's not me, babe.
So, yeah, this is where one of those moments where you really have to sit with the decision because it doesn't really make sense on the surface for him to do this. But when you think about everything leading up to this, it kind of does for him. He's built a life there. He's comfortable. For the first time in his life as an adult, he's comfortable. He has a relationship. He's involved with the kids. She says he's really good with them. He's a good dude. He's a good parental figure. He's a good partner. He has routines. He goes to church. He's involved in the community. He has a relationship. He has a version of him that's normal that he's been living for months. So it's not like this guy has just been being a creepy convict. Like he's started a brand new life. So that's what kind of leads people to believe that that's why he didn't end up going anywhere.
He's got the talent of being able to go commit crimes and then shut it off when he gets home and turn into a completely different person.
Yeah, he's a chameleon for sure. And if he walks away from that, it means starting over again. And at this point in his life, it's 2004. If you're born in 71, you're 33 years old. And it's like you've already been in prison. You finally found someone you like. You finally found kids. You finally feel some comfort. Are you going to throw that away again? And so for whatever reason, he doesn't. So instead of running, he stays. And that decision is what ultimately ends everything. Because once law enforcement knows who they're looking for, they start working backwards. They say, okay, who has this guy been around? Who has he been talking to? Where has he been? And then that all leads to Miss Lee Wainscott.
How did they figure that out?
Pictures, putting him on it.
So I'm sure that they had his mug shot from when he was in prison and people said, oh, that looks like that guy. And they probably called and...
Yeah, I think he goes to church with us. Oh, I think he's hanging out with Miss Lee over here.
I bet those church people were freaking out.
Yeah, I'd be scared too. Imagine at our church, if we've been going to church with somebody for... Imagine me. Imagine you're watching the news tomorrow, Hunter, and you see my picture just show up on Show Me Times or KFES 12 saying, hey, this guy is an escaped convict. And you're like, what the hell? This guy's been going to church with me for a year. He's been in my house,
Not only that, but we would definitely get some publicity off this podcast.
We definitely would. That'd be a crazy turn.
This is Crime Daddy.
Yeah, Crime Daddy. Have some explaining to do. But yeah, they start to work backwards. Like, who's he been around? They find out the church he's been going to. They find out who he's talking to. And it all leads back to her. So now imagine being in her position for a second. You've been dating this guy. You met him at church. You've gone out to eat together. You spent time together. He's been around your kids. You've known this guy for months. And you really think you know who he is. And then police show up. They show you a picture. They tell you his real name. And they tell you that he's an escaped prisoner. And they tell you about the robberies. How would you react, Hunter?
I think the only way that she probably is going to react is almost in denial, because I'm sure that he led on to her and made her feel like he was like so wonderful. I guess she would react one or two ways. Either be in complete denial, or she would either feel completely betrayed. That's the only two things I can think of how she would react.
Now, in this situation, according to reports, she cooperates, and that's a huge turning point for police.
Of course she does, because her being a Christian, she has morals, and it doesn't matter how she probably feels about that guy. She's going to do what's right, because it's probably just in her personality altogether, like do the right thing no matter what.
Yeah, and up until now, whenever he does these crimes, we've talked about he's doing it by himself. He has no co-conspirators. He doesn't have a robbery ring. He's never involved anybody. He's just been a lone son of a gun his whole life. And this is the first time in his life he's actually been with somebody and had a relationship. And so that's why it's a big turning point in the case, because now they have someone close to him that's working against him with the police.
I wouldn't necessarily say he's a violent criminal. I mean, the only violent thing about him is his gun, but up to this point, he's never used it. He's just using it as a control weapon.
Exactly. He wants to control. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He just wants the money. He just wants to have some security, some control, and then the moment he's done, he's out. He's never hurt anybody. And who's to say if the gun was ever loaded or not? Maybe he was just bluffing the whole time, but he hasn't ever shown any sorts of violence. He just is a guy trying to get by, and he found the wrong way to go about it.
Isn't it crazy how many different crimes happen where somebody ups a gun and like nobody around has a gun on them? Because like I exercise my Second Amendment.
Right.
I can still carry a pistol all the time. It seems like the chances are that a crime's going to happen around more people that don't have a gun compared to it happening with people with a gun. It happens, but it's like not near as often.
Yeah, I'm right with you. And so now she's working with police, and they come up with a plan. So it just so happens to be close to her birthday. And so on her birthday, her and, quote, her boyfriend John had plans to celebrate already. They had a planned dinner for her birthday, a normal night. So law enforcement, they use that. They have her call him, and this is where it gets tense, because now you got the situation where everything hinges off that one interaction. Does he sense that something's off? Does he hesitate? Does he change the plans? But he doesn't. He's like, yeah, plans are still on. She calls him, confirms dinner, keeps it normal, no panic. Doesn't change her tone. He doesn't change his tone, and he buys it.
At this point, does he know that she knows?
No.
So he thinks that she's oblivious to all this.
He thinks that plans are as normal. We're going to go out. I'm coming over to your house. We're going to have dinner for her birthday. And little does he know that she is working with the police. And so he agrees to come over. And this is where you can almost see how deep into this double life he really was, because on his way there, he wanted to be a little gentleman, and he stops to buy flowers for her birthday. Think about that. This guy who just committed a robbery days earlier, police are actively looking for him. He's an escaped convict. His identity is now out there on the news. People are talking. And he's still operating like everything is normal. He's still playing his role, still showing up as the boyfriend, bringing flowers. He drives over, pulls up, walks to the door. And at this point, from his perspective, it's just another night, another routine, another part of life he's been living. He knocks, and the second that door opens, everything ends. You ever watched, what's that show with Chris Hansen?
Catch a Predator?
Yeah, whenever they just have the police ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what he walks into.
You here to meet a 13-year-old boy?
He walks in, police are there, and he gets taken into custody immediately, obviously. No chase, no escape. He knew it.
So he didn't resist or anything?
Yeah, he knew it. This was on January 5th, 2005. So about 10 days after he robbed the Toys R Us. And just like that, his run is over. Now, after that, he goes to trial for everything that happened in Charlotte, with his escaped prison run, all the way to the robbery, all the break-ins he had, all the things he stole while he was living there, all of it. And he's convicted. And he is sentenced to about 40 more years in prison. And this time, there's no slipping through the cracks. He is sent to prison in North Carolina, eventually housed at Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Is it consecutively or concurrently?
Concurrently.
So really, does he get a chance of parole?
I don't believe so. And we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. So now, even after all this, he still tries to escape again. This guy is on one, I'm telling you. He just does not know how to sit still.
You can't keep him locked down, Jacob.
And it happens more than once. He tries in 2009, and then unsuccessful, and then again in 2017. And both times it fails.
Did they find out how he escaped the first time?
Yeah, he kind of told them whenever he got locked up. Whenever he got in trouble, he was always honest about what he did. And he told the police what he did, and he always pled guilty because he never fought it. He's like, yeah, I did this, and this is what I did, and this is how I did it. But yeah, he fails both these attempts, which kind of tells something about him, because even after everything, that mindset never really went away. Like, you can take the dog out of the fight, but not the fight out of the dog. So he's always looking for a little way out, looking for different possibilities. He's always trying to beat the system. But this time, it just does not work for him. And as of now, he is still there. Projected release date is going to be December 4th, 2036. And so when you step back and look at this entire story, what makes it stick isn't just the crimes themselves. It's the way he lived inside these little worlds. Because you got this guy who was clearly intelligent. Like you said, I'm curious as to what his IQ is, because he's clearly a genius to been able to do what he did for such a long time. He's disciplined. He's capable of long-term planning. A guy who could observe, adapt, and execute at any level that most people cannot do. And instead of using that for something legitimate, he built that almost surreal double life. Living inside stores, blending into communities, building relationships, going to church, all that, dating somebody, all while secretly being one of the most unique serial robbers in the whole history of the country. He was polite, calm, and like I said, some people said they even liked him, which is weird to say. If I got robbed, I don't care how nice they are. I don't think I'm going to like whoever's robbing me. But then again, if they're robbing the store I'm working for and not me personally, then I might feel a little bit different.
There's another case kind of similar to this that has to do with fast food restaurants. I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but I think it's one that we should cover.
Yeah, we need to look into it. So even while he did appear to be likable, at the same time, he did a lot of things that were pretty shitty. He locked people in freezers for hours on end. He held them at gunpoint, which probably gave them more trauma than most people would like to admit. I mean, especially imagine you're just some 18-year-old guy who's working fast food, and then it's your morning shift, and the next thing you know, you have a gun in your face. That's going to be a little traumatic at a young age. So he definitely hurt some people, maybe not physically, but definitely he could have emotionally or mentally. Robbing businesses, it did say that there was some businesses he robbed that were just small mom and pop shops, which probably affected them a lot more than these big corporations. So he definitely did some damage. There's a big contradiction. Yeah, he's polite. Yeah, he's nice. Maybe he's calm. But there is a balance between this control and chaos, between normal and completely abnormal, which is what makes this case stick. And that's what makes Jeffrey Manchester the Roof Man. Now, if you guys have heard of this before, this is the premise of a 2025 film labeled after Mr. Jeffrey, named Roof Man. Yeah, have you heard about it, Hunter?
I have actually never heard of this before. Where can I stream it?
I know it's on Amazon Prime, and It's actually got a pretty big actor that plays Mr. Jeffrey.
Who is it?
Channing Tatum.
No way.
Yeah, so in this movie, it kind of breaks it down. They kind of portray it as a comedy of him living in the store.
That's what I was going to say. When he was in 22 Jump Street, that's one of the best movies, in my opinion, ever made.
Yeah.
Because he is, him and Jonah Hill in that movie with Ice Cube is so hilarious.
Yeah, I think me and you are going to be our own version of 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
But maybe instead of Jump Street, we just got to find some place here in Dexter.
We're both tied down right now, so we can't be.
Yeah, we can't go and be undercover.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in 2025, this movie came out, and I actually watched it a few months ago, and I just thought it was so fascinating. And it's hilarious because Channing Tatum is just funny. And if you think about this whole story in and of itself, it's pretty funny because this guy, even though he's a criminal and he does kind of some crappy things, ultimately, he's just a nice guy making bad decisions. He did something funny and lived inside of a freaking Toys R Us for months.
So this guy was this handsome and chose this path.
He wasn't that handsome. I'll show you a picture of him.
So Channing Tatum playing him is definitely a contradiction.
Yeah, it's big time. But yeah, he plays him, and even in this movie, he doesn't really even exaggerate what happened because the story itself is crazy enough. He kind of just plays it out exactly how it happened. And funny enough, Channing Tatum would call this guy from prison and get on voice calls with him and even get on video chats with him and talk to him for hours.
I bet he is tickled pink that a movie's being made after him.
He is, and he talked about that. And you can go look up videos of Channing Tatum talking about him. And Channing Tatum's like, this guy is such a nice guy. He's like, we talk for hours. He's so down to earth. And he heard his whole story out. He asked this guy about his whole life story. Who would have thought you just had this crazy story, and then 20 years later, a big Hollywood movie star is advocating for you because he thinks you're a really good dude?
Was he able to sell his story and get any financial compensation? Because I know some criminals are able to do that, but they'll have to use the earnings from it to pay back court fees or if he's got to pay back these businesses for money that he stole.
So it says right here, there's no credible information showing that Jeffrey Manchester was paid for the movie Roofman, but it has been reported that he did speak with the director, Derek Chanfrance, and also had a lot of conversations with Channing Tatum during development, but that doesn't automatically mean he was compensated. In cases like this, it really comes down to whether the filmmakers produced, quote, life rights to the movie for the person, and there's no confirmed public record that his life rights were bought or that he was received payments.
I would hope that they would at least put money on his book so he could eat like a king in prison for a while.
I mean, it sounds like him and Channing Tatum are just really good buddies all of a sudden. I'm sure he helped his buddy out for some information. Whenever I was doing some research and watching these videos, Channing Tatum said that at points he would call him and talk to him and ask him for details. That way he could better portray him in the movie. Like, hey, what did you actually do? And it's funny because this guy was like, yeah, man, I'd go in the bike aisle and I'd get on these little tricycles. And he's like, I would just race around the store, just have a ball like at nighttime and play with toys. He's like, I feel like a little kid again. And
you know,
that
that would be fun.
Candy and just have fun in Toys R Us.
That would be fun. Imagine going inside Walmart when everything's closed down and you just have access to everything like he did. Ride a bike around a store, set up a portable hot tub in the middle of the store, watch TV.
He was just able to do whatever he wanted. That just probably filled some sort of childhood fantasy he had, because I remember thinking that same thing as a kid. Like, wouldn't it be cool if I could just live inside Walmart? I can have access to all these things. And this guy actually did it. And it played out very similar to how it did in the TV show My Name is Earl, whenever they all lived inside the store for a few days. But yeah, I mean, it's a really funny story. It's not really a murder. So I figured we'd have one really light week, because we talk about like a lot of heavy stuff and, you know, just some stuff that kind of might weigh you down. So I wanted to have like something that's like a little bit more upbeat, something that's a little funny, definitely wild, because I mean, what kind of story is this? How does this guy get by with so much? But according to reports, he is up to get released in 2036. So he's got 10 more years.
So he's pretty well doing about, say, 80% of his total sentence, and he's probably hopefully going to get out on parole.
Yeah. But I mean, whenever you're looking at parole and the fact that he's escaped before and tried to escape 2 more times,
probably going to be denied.
Yeah, I'd say so. I guarantee, unless he gets out of prison and he starts hanging out with his old boy Channing Tatum and they could become good buddies, he might be back at your nearest McDonald's. Luckily, a lot of Toys R Us's are out, so he doesn't really have much place to go to call home. That is the story I got for you today. This is the Roofman case. Hunter, what are your thoughts?
I actually really enjoyed this story. I've never heard of it before. Very interesting. Kind of like a Michael Jackson would say, a smooth criminal. It sounds like he was able to not only gain monetary value from his robberies, but also gain some freedom to just do whatever he wanted after hours.
And I think, like I said, this is what differs from a lot of cases we talk about, because most of the time when we talk about these criminals, they're like obvious monsters. Like they're just real pieces of crap. And this guy is a little bit different. You kind of think about his case a little different. Like you try to understand him a little bit more, because he didn't hurt anybody. He just stole from these big corporations and big businesses. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of the things he did probably traumatized some people, but ultimately he was just a transient kind of guy. Very similar to Mr. Tommy Lynn Sells, but instead of murdering people, he just decided to ride bikes around Toys R Us at nighttime and cut holes in McDonald's ceilings and just pop through and scare some people.
Yeah, this guy was acting like a kid, not killing kids, so kudos to him.
Yeah, he was just acting like an 8-year-old would, but in a 33-year-old body. And so that is the story of Mr. Jeffrey Manchester, the Roofman. And if you get a chance, guys, Hunter, go watch the movie. It's hilarious. Like you said, Channing Tatum can make anything funny. I like just about everything he's been in, especially the 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street. Those are just some of my favorite movies.
I thought you were going to say Magic Mike.
Shut up. Shut up. You know I wasn't going to say no Magic Mike.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for joining us this week. Like we've always said, we're going to drop every Tuesday. And eventually, if you guys get us enough numbers, enough streams, and we have the motivation and the, feel like we have to, we're going to try to drop twice a week. Please post us on your stories on social media. Please follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Facebook is just straight up Crime Daddies. And then Instagram is Crime Daddies Pod.
Yeah, and so if you guys can just hit every button whenever you're on our page, hit every single button. If you need to share, repost, like, comment, send it to your grandma, send it to your aunt, send it to your boss. Just get the word out there, because all the comments and likes and everything you do for us just pushes us further in all the algorithms on all platforms. You can get access to all those on, like Hunter said, on Instagram and Facebook. And then if you want to go and onto our Instagram, you can also find our personal TikToks. We also post some of our Crime Daddies content over there as well. If you're at all interested in spreading some love, we appreciate you guys, and we're just going to keep on putting out some crime every single week.
And like I mentioned before, I'm actually live right now on TikTok. So if you're up late at night and you want to get a sneak peek into a case that's going to be coming out, join my TikTok live and you're going to get that.
But other than that, that's all I got for you guys this week. So thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.
Thank you guys. Goodbye.